The massive warship Eternal Harmony drifted through the void like a dying whale, its hull scarred by plasma burns and meteor impacts. Inside the bridge, Commander Sci-fi pressed her four-fingered hand against the cracked viewing portal and watched the distant star flicker. "How long?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of desperation. Her second-in-command, Officer Veltar, consulted his holographic display with trembling appendages. "The star will collapse within 72 standard hours. When it goes supernova, the radiation wave will reach us in 36 hours after that." Sci-fi's breathing apparatus wheezed as she processed this information. Around her, the bridge hummed with dying systems. Emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow. The smell of burnt circuitry filled the recycled air. "Status of the fleet?" she demanded. 47 vessels remaining, Commander. All showing critical damage. Our jump drives are completely offline. Life support is failing across 12 ships. Veltar's voice cracked. "We're not just stranded, Commander. We're trapped in a death sentence." The Eternal Harmony had once led a proud fleet of 200 ships, carrying the last survivors of the Veltar civilization. Their homeworld had been consumed by their own dying sun 6 months ago. They had fled across the galaxy, searching for a new home, only to have their fleet decimated by pirates, cosmic storms, and mechanical failures. Now they faced their final enemy, time itself. "Sir," Communications Officer Nethra suddenly straightened at her console. "I'm detecting something unusual." "What kind of unusual?" Sci-fi moved toward the communications station, her heavy footsteps echoing in the quiet bridge. Unknown energy signatures approaching from the fourth quadrant. Multiple contacts. They're moving fast, Commander, really fast. On the main screen, dozens of small dots appeared against the star field, growing larger by the second. The ships were sleek and unfamiliar, moving with a precision that spoke of advanced technology. "Are they hostile?" Sci-fi's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm. "Unknown, Commander. They're not using any weapon signatures we recognize, but..." Nethra paused, her large eyes widening. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It sounds like they're trying to communicate." "Put it through." Static filled the bridge, then a strange melodic language none of them had ever heard. The words were harsh and soft at the same time, spoken with an urgency that transcended language barriers. "Computer, attempt translation," Sci-fi ordered. Translation protocol initiated. The ship's AI responded in its tired mechanical voice, scanning linguistic patterns, cross-referencing known languages. Translation achieved. Confidence level, 67%. The alien voices suddenly became clear, though heavily accented and sometimes stilted. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Defiance. We have detected your distress situation. Please respond if you can hear this message. We are here to help." The bridge fell silent. Earth? None of them had ever heard of such a place. "Commander?" Veltar whispered. "What do we do?" Sci-fi stared at the approaching ships. They were small compared to Veltar vessels, but they moved with confidence. More importantly, they had offered help when her people expected only death. "Open a channel," she decided. "Channel open, Commander." Sci-fi took a deep breath. "Earth. Vessel Defiance. This is Commander Sci-fi of the Veltar refugee fleet. We are in desperate need of assistance. Our ships are failing and we have nowhere to go." The response came immediately. "Commander Sci-fi, we read you loud and clear. I'm Captain Sarah Chen. We've been monitoring your situation, and we're going to get you out of here. Stand by for emergency assistance." "Captain Chen," Sci-fi said carefully, "you should know that when our star goes supernova, everything within a light-hour radius will be destroyed. If you help us, you may not escape in time." There was a pause. Then Captain Chen's voice came back, firm and resolute. "Commander, that's exactly why we're here. No one gets left behind. Not on our watch." As the human ships drew closer, Sci-fi felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. But she had no idea that this encounter would change both species forever. Chapter 2. First Contact the Human Ship. Defiance was unlike anything the Veltar had ever seen, where their vessels were organic curves and flowing lines. This ship was all angles and purpose. It bristled with equipment they couldn't identify, and it moved with the confidence of a predator. Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, studying the massive alien fleet through her view screen. At 38, she was young for a fleet commander, but her reputation for impossible rescues had earned her the respect of her crew. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her brown eyes showed determination mixed with concern. "Analysis, Commander Rodriguez?" she asked her. First Officer. Commander Miguel Rodriguez, a veteran of the Mars colonies, shook his head grimly. "It's bad, Captain, really bad. Those ships are running on fumes. I'm reading massive hull breaches, failing life support, and their power cores are barely functioning. Some of those vessels are going to lose atmosphere within hours." "How many survivors are we looking at?" "Best estimate, 250,000 beings across 47 ships." Sarah whistled low. "The Defiance. And her small fleet of 12 ships couldn't possibly evacuate that many aliens, even if they had somewhere to take them." "Captain," Lieutenant Kim Park at Communications spoke up, "we're getting more transmissions from the alien." "Commander, she's sending technical specifications for their ships and—" "Oh my." "What is it, Park?" "Their technology is incredible, Captain. These aren't just refugee ships. They're the remnants of an entire civilization. Their database shows they've mastered faster than light travel, quantum computing and biological engineering we can only dream of." Sarah nodded slowly. First contact with an alien species was challenging enough, but first contact during a disaster was something else entirely. "Captain Chen," came Commander Zephi's voice over the comm system. "I must ask you directly. Why? Are you helping us? Our species have never met. You gain nothing from our survival." Sarah looked around her bridge at her crew. She saw Lieutenant Park, whose grandparents had fled war on Earth. Commander Rodriguez, whose family had lost everything in the climate disasters of the 2150s. Engineer Thompson, whose parents had been saved by strangers during the Luna mining accident. "Commander Zephi," Sarah said into her comm, "my species has a saying, today you, tomorrow me. We help because someone might need help tomorrow, and because it's the right thing to do. I do not understand this concept." "You will," Sarah said with a slight smile. "Chief Engineer Thompson, what's our evacuation capacity?" Chief Engineer Janet Thompson, a woman in her 50s with grease-stained coveralls and cybernetic implants where mining accidents had taken her left arm, looked up from her console. "Per ship? Maybe 2,000 beings, assuming they're roughly humanoid. But Captain, even if we pack them in like sardines, we can't take everyone." "Then we make multiple trips," Sarah decided. "Captain," Rodriguez said quietly, "the star's collapse timeline doesn't give us multiple trips. We have maybe 18 hours before we need to clear the blast radius." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then activated her comm to the rest of the human fleet. "All vessels, this is Captain Chen. I know what you're thinking. The math doesn't work. We can't save everyone. But we're going to try anyway, because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people." "Captain," came a voice from the Resilience, one of her escort ships, "what if we can't get them all out?" "Then we stay with them," Sarah said simply. The bridge fell silent. Finally, Commander Rodriguez spoke. "Ma'am, with respect, that's suicide." "Maybe," Sarah acknowledged. "But leaving 250,000 beings to die when we could help? That's not suicide. That's murder by neglect." On the alien flagship, Commander Zephi was having a similar conversation with her officers. "Commander," Officer Kriltar said, "these humans claim they will help us, but their ships are tiny. Even if they wanted to evacuate our entire population, it's impossible." "I know the mathematics, Kriltar. Then why do they offer help they cannot provide?" Zephi looked at the tactical display showing the approaching human vessels. Each one was maybe a tenth the size of even their smallest ship, yet they moved with purpose and precision. "I think," she said slowly, "they genuinely believe they can save us, or they're willing to die trying. That makes no sense from a survival standpoint." "No," Zephi agreed. "It doesn't. but it makes perfect sense from a perspective I'm beginning to understand. They're not calculating odds. They're calculating right and wrong. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the human fleet. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out urgently. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching. Fast. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration." Sarah's blood went cold. "More refugees?" "Negative, Captain. These energy signatures are weapons hot. Someone's coming in ready for a fight." On the main screen, dozens of new ships appeared at the edge of sensor range. Unlike the human vessels or the organic Veltar ships, these were angular, aggressive-looking craft with weapon ports that glowed with menacing energy. "Commander ShortStories," Sarah called over the comm. "Do you recognize those ships?" The alien commander's voice came back tight with fear. "Pirates, Karthak raiders. They've been hunting us across 3-star systems." "What do they want?" "Our technology. Our ships, our people as slaves." ShortStories' voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Captain Chen, you need to leave now. If you stay, they'll destroy you first, then take their time with us." Sarah looked at her tactical display. 12 human ships against what looked like 30 or more pirate vessels, with 250,000 civilians caught in the middle. "Commander Rodriguez," she said calmly. "Battle stations." "Captain, we're outnumbered 3-1. Then we better make sure we fight smart instead of hard." Sarah turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Park, send a message to the Karthak fleet." "What should I tell them, Captain?" Sarah's eyes hardened. "Tell them that this refugee fleet is under the protection of Earth. Tell them to turn around and leave, or they'll discover why humanity earned its place among the stars. And if they don't leave, then they'll learn that humans are very, very good at making things explode." As the pirate fleet closed in, both the human and Veltar crews prepared for what looked like an impossible battle, but neither species understood yet what they were truly capable of together. Chapter 3. The Battle for Tomorrow. The Karthak pirate fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts, their ships bristling with weapons and scarred by countless battles. At their head flew the massive dreadnought Bloodtaker, commanded by War Chief Galactic, a being whose reputation for cruelty extended across dozens of star systems. On the bridge of the Bloodtaker, Galactic studied the tactical display with his 4 red eyes. The Veltar refugee fleet hung helplessly in space just as his spies had reported, but the small human ships positioned between his fleet and the refugees puzzled him. "Communications," he growled in his species' harsh language. "What do these tiny vessels want?" "They claim the refugees are under their protection, War Chief. They demand we withdraw." Galactic's laugh was like grinding metal. 12 ships against our 38? These humans must be either very brave or very stupid." "What are your orders, War Chief?" "Destroy the human ships quickly. We have schedules to keep." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Captain Sarah Chen was coordinating with both her own fleet and the Veltar commanders. The bridge hummed with urgent activity as her crew prepared for battle. "Commander Rodriguez, what's our tactical assessment?" "Not good, Captain. They outgun us, outmass us, and outnumber us. Our only advantages are speed and maneuverability. That'll have to be enough." Sarah opened a channel to the Veltar fleet. "Commander ShortStories, what kind of weapons do your ships still have operational?" "Very few, Captain Chen. Most of our military vessels were lost months ago. We have maybe 6 ships with functioning defensive systems, and only 3 with any offensive capability." "What about your knowledge of Karthak tactics?" "Extensive. We've been running from them for weeks. They prefer overwhelming firepower and direct assault. They're not creative in their approach." Sarah smiled grimly. "Good. Creativity is something humans excel at. Commander Rodriguez, implement pattern Gamma 7. The broken field?" Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "That's never been tested in real combat." First time for everything. Across the human fleet, ships began moving in what appeared to be a chaotic, random pattern. To the Karthak observers, it looked like panic. But each movement was precisely calculated. "Captain," Lieutenant Park reported, The pirates are beginning their attack run, multiple energy signatures powering up. Let them come. The first wave of Karthak ships opened fire with massive plasma cannons, sending bolts of destructive energy toward the human vessels. But where the ships had been moments before, there was only empty space. The human fleet had scattered in a seemingly random pattern that made targeting impossible. "What are they doing?" War Chief Grazitok demanded as his ship's weapons fire missed completely. "Unknown, War Chief. Their movement pattern appears random, but our targeting computers cannot establish firing solutions. The human ships weren't moving randomly at all. They were using a complex mathematical formula that created the illusion of chaos while maintaining perfect coordination. It was a tactic developed for asteroid mining in chaotic debris fields, now adapted for combat." "Now," Sarah commanded. The human ships suddenly converged from all directions, their smaller weapon systems targeting specific points on the Karthak vessels. Instead of trying to destroy the heavily armored pirate ships, they targeted sensors, weapon arrays, and engine systems with surgical precision. "Impossible!" Grazitok roared as his tactical display showed 3 of his ships losing weapon systems and another 2 with damaged engines. "How are such small ships penetrating our defenses?" But the humans were just getting started. "Commander Scifi," Sarah called over the comm. "We need those 3 ships with working weapons. Can you coordinate with our targeting data?" Yes, Captain. Transmitting our fire control to your tactical system." "Outstanding. Chief Thompson, are you ready with our special delivery?" From the engine room of the Defiance, Chief Engineer Thompson's voice came through clearly. "Package is ready, Captain, though I should mention this is completely insane. The best plans usually are. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations." The human ships, still moving in their complex evasive pattern, began herding the Karthak fleet into a specific formation. The pirates, focused on trying to target the elusive human vessels, didn't notice they were being maneuvered. At the precise moment, the 3 functional Veltar warships fired their remaining weapons at coordinates provided by the human fleet. Their shots seemed to miss the Karthak vessels entirely, but they weren't aiming for the ships. The Veltar weapons struck 3 carefully placed pieces of debris that the human fleet had positioned during their evasive maneuvers. The debris exploded in a precisely calculated chain reaction that sent shrapnel and energy waves through the densely packed pirate formation. "It's a trap!" one of the Karthak captains screamed as his ship's hull was punctured by high-velocity debris. The coordinated attack disabled or destroyed 15 Karthak vessels in seconds, but more importantly, it sent a clear message to War Chief Grazitok. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with fear in his voice, "these humans, they turned our own assault formation against us. They used our attack pattern to position us for maximum damage from their counterattack." Grazitok stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 30 years of piracy, he had never encountered tactics like this. The humans fought like they thought 10 moves ahead, like they could predict exactly what their enemies would do. "Captain Chen," came Commander Zephi's voice over the comm, wonder clear in her tone. "How did you know they would position themselves exactly where you needed them?" "We studied your tactical logs," Sarah replied. "The Karthak always use the same attack formations because they've always worked. We just gave them what they expected, then turned their predictability against them." But the battle wasn't over. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out urgently, "the remaining Karthak ships are powering up some kind of massive weapon. Energy readings are off the charts." On the Blood Taker, War Chief Grazitok had made a desperate decision. "Activate the Void Cannon. Target the star." "Sir, if we destabilize the star, the supernova will happen immediately. We'll all be destroyed." "Better to die than to be defeated by inferior species," Grazitok roared. "If we cannot have the slaves and technology, no one will." A massive weapon emerged from the Blood Taker's hull, its energy readings making every sensor in the system scream warnings. Sarah stared at her tactical display in horror. "They're going to accelerate the star's collapse. If that weapon fires, we'll have minutes instead of hours." "Captain," Rodriguez said quietly, There's no way to stop a weapon that size. We'd have to get through their remaining defensive screen, and even then what? Even then, someone would have to manually disable it from inside their ship. Sarah looked around her bridge at her crew. Young Lieutenant Park, Steady Commander Rodriguez, and through the comm system, the voices of 250,000 Veltar refugees counting on them. "Chief Thompson," she said into her communicator, "how long to rig our reactor for overload?" "Captain, no." Rodriguez grabbed her arm. "You're talking about ramming their flagship." "I'm talking about saving 250,000 lives," Sarah corrected. "Sometimes that's what heroes do." But before she could give the order, Commander Zephi's voice came over the comm system. "Captain Chen, this is our fight. You've done enough." "Commander, what are you—" "The Eternal Harmony still has one functional jump drive. We can make a micro-jump directly into their weapon system." "But Captain—" Zephi's voice grew soft. "Thank you for showing us what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves." As the Veltar flagship began moving toward the Karthak dreadnought, Sarah realized that this battle had become about more than just survival. It had become about what people were willing to sacrifice for each other. But neither the humans nor the Veltar had anticipated what would happen next. Chapter 4. The power of unity, the Eternal Harmony, limped through space toward the massive Karthak dreadnought, its damaged hull groaning with each movement. On the bridge, Commander Zephi watched the Bloodtaker grow larger on her view screen as her ship closed the distance. "Commander," Officer Kriltar said quietly, "the jump drive is charged, but our navigation systems are damaged. We might miss the target." "Then we'll have to make sure we don't miss," Zephi replied, her hands steady on the manual controls despite the fear in her heart. Aboard the Defiance, Captain Sarah Chen was coordinating what might be the final moments of the battle. Her tactical display showed the Karthak Void Cannon almost fully charged, its energy readings climbing toward critical levels. "Captain," Lieutenant Park reported, "I'm detecting something unusual in the energy patterns from the Karthak weapon." "What kind of unusual?" "The targeting system is locked onto the star, but there's a secondary effect building up. If that weapon fires, it won't just destabilize the star. It'll create a cascade reaction that could destroy multiple systems." Sarah's blood went cold. This wasn't just about the 250,000 refugees anymore. The Karthak weapon could kill billions of beings across dozens of worlds. "Commander Zephi," she called over the comm, "abort your attack run. We have new information." "I cannot, Captain Chen. We're committed to this course. The weapon will do more damage than we thought. If you destroy it by ramming, the explosion might still trigger the cascade." There was silence on the comm for a long moment. Then Zephi's voice came back, thoughtful and determined. "Captain, could your people disable the weapon if they were inside the ship?" "Possibly, but we'd need detailed technical specifications, and I'm transmitting our complete database on Karthak technology. Our people studied their equipment extensively while we were fleeing." Sarah stared at her screen as terabytes of alien technical data flooded their systems. "Commander, this is everything you know about their technology. You're giving us your entire scientific database. You've shown us something we had forgotten, Captain Chen. Sometimes survival means working together instead of running alone." The Karthak flagship, War Chief Groztok watched the approaching Veltar vessel with growing alarm. "Defensive batteries, stop that ship." But as the Eternal Harmony drew closer, something unexpected happened. The human fleet, which had been maintaining their evasive pattern, suddenly converged on the Bloodtaker from all directions. "What are the humans doing?" the Karthak tactical officer asked. They weren't attacking. Instead, each human ship was positioning itself to shield the approaching Veltar vessel from the pirate ship's defensive fire. "They're protecting the Veltar ship," Groztok realized with growing horror. "These species are coordinating their attack." But even he couldn't have anticipated what happened next. "Captain Chen," came Commander Zephi's voice over the comm. "Are you ready?" "Ready for what?" "We're not going to ram their ship, we're going to board it." The Eternal Harmony suddenly dropped out of its suicidal course and made a micro-jump that brought it directly alongside the Bloodtaker. Before the Karthak crew could react, Boarding tubes shot out from the Veltar ship and attached to the pirate vessel's hull. "Now, Captain," Sci-fi called. 6 human ships, moving with perfect precision, fired their docking systems at different points along the Karthak dreadnought's hull. In seconds, both human and Veltar forces were boarding the enemy vessel. War Chief Galactic stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "They're boarding us? No one boards a Karthak dreadnought, but that's exactly what was happening." Captain Sarah Chen led her boarding party through the corridors of the alien ship, following the technical specifications provided by the Veltar. Behind her, Lieutenant Park carried a portable computer loaded with the combined technical knowledge of both species. "Left at the next junction," Park called out, consulting the Veltar data. "The weapon control center should be 2 levels down." Meanwhile, Commander Sci-fi was leading her own team through a different section of the ship, heading for the main power core. "Captain Chen," came Sci-fi's voice over the comm, "I can cut power to their weapon, but you'll need to manually disable the targeting system. If the weapon fires without proper targeting, it could still cause the cascade reaction." "Understood. How much time do we have?" "Perhaps 10 minutes before the weapon reaches critical charge." Sarah's team reached the weapon control center to find it heavily defended by Karthak warriors. The alien pirates were fierce fighters, but they had never faced the combination of human tactical thinking and Veltar technology. "Park, can you interface with their systems using the Veltar protocols?" "Working on it, Captain." The young lieutenant's fingers flew over her portable computer, adapting the alien technical data in real time. "Their system architecture is different, but the Veltar database has enough information to crack their security." The battle for the control room was fierce but brief. The Karthak warriors were individually stronger than the humans, but Sarah's team fought with a coordination and adaptability that the pirates couldn't match. "Got it," Park called out as her computer finally broke through the weapons control systems. "Disabling targeting now." At the same moment, Commander Sci-fi's voice came over the comm. "Power to the void cannon is severed. The weapon is offline." But their victory celebration was cut short by War Chief Galactic's voice over the ship's communication system. "Attention, invaders. You may have disabled the void cannon, but this ship carries enough antimatter to vaporize half this star system. If you do not surrender immediately, I will detonate our entire antimatter storage." Sarah and Sci-fi looked at each other through their comm screens. They had stopped one catastrophe only to face another. "Captain," Sci-fi said quietly, "antimatter detonation in this location would indeed destroy everything within several light hours. My people, your people, and the star system itself. How long to evacuate?" "Impossible. There are too many ships, too many people." Sarah was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she smiled, the expression that would have terrified the Karthak if they had understood human facial expressions. "Commander Sci-fi, does the Veltar database include information about Karthak antimatter storage systems?" "Yes, but why?" "Because I have an idea, and it's either brilliant or completely insane." "Captain Chen," Sci-fi said with what sounded like a laugh. "In the short time I've known your species, I've learned that those two things are often the same." What Sarah proposed next would either save everyone in the system or destroy them all. But it would also prove that sometimes the most impossible solutions come from the most unexpected partnerships. Epilogue. New Horizons 6. Months later, the joint human-Veltar space station New Harmony orbited a peaceful world in what had once been considered empty space. The massive structure was a marvel of combined engineering. Human practicality merged with Veltar elegance to create something neither species could have built alone. Captain Sarah Chen, now promoted to Admiral, stood in the station's observation deck watching construction crews work on the latest addition. Both human and Veltar workers moved in perfect coordination, their different strengths complementing each other. "The new agricultural modules are ahead of schedule," Commander Sci-fi reported, approaching with a datapad in her hands. She wore a hybrid uniform that combined elements from both species' designs. "Your people's hydroponic systems integrated. With our biological enhancement techniques are producing crop yields neither of us thought possible." Sarah nodded, then smiled. Remember when the hardest part of our day was figuring out how to stop a Karthak antimatter explosion? That seems like a lifetime ago, Sci-fi agreed. Though I still cannot believe your solution worked. 6 months ago, in the final moments aboard the Blood Taker, Sarah had proposed something that defied conventional logic. Instead of trying to prevent the antimatter explosion, they would redirect it. Using the combined knowledge of human physics and Veltar energy manipulation, they had turned the Karthak weapon into the galaxy's largest propulsion system. The entire pirate fleet, caught in the controlled antimatter detonation, had been launched at near light speed toward the edge of the galaxy. War Chief Graztok and his raiders were now traveling so fast they wouldn't be able to slow down for several hundred years, effectively removing them as a threat forever. Speaking of impossible solutions, Sci-fi continued, the latest reports from our joint exploration fleets are remarkable. The Andorian Trade Federation wants to establish diplomatic relations, and the crystal beings of Sigma Centauri are interested in our terraforming techniques. All because we helped each other when it mattered, Sarah mused. The story of the Human-Veltar alliance had spread across the galaxy. Two species who had never met before, choosing to work together in the face of impossible odds. Other civilizations had taken notice, and many wanted to be part of what was being called the Harmony Protocol, the idea that cooperation was stronger than competition. Admiral Chen, Lieutenant Park's voice came over the comm system. We're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through. The familiar face of Admiral Martinez appeared on the viewing screen. Sarah, congratulations on the success of the new Harmony project. Earth Command has approved your request for the next phase. The Deep Space Exploration Program? Approved. You'll have joint human-Veltar crews on 12 ships, with a mission to make contact with civilizations beyond our current borders. Your success in turning enemies into allies has convinced the leadership that humanity's future lies in building bridges, not walls. After the transmission ended, Sarah and Sci-fi stood in comfortable silence watching their people work together on the growing space station. Admiral, Sci-fi said eventually, I have been thinking about something you said during our first meeting, about how helping others might mean someone will help you tomorrow. What about it? I think you were wrong. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Oh? It is not today you, tomorrow me. Sci-fi explained with a sound that might have been laughter. It is today us, tomorrow everyone. When we help each other, we create something stronger than either of us could be alone. Sarah smiled. I think you're right. And I think that's exactly the message we need to carry to the stars. As if summoned by their words, Commander Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Admiral Chen, the first joint exploration fleet is ready for departure. 12 ships, mixed crews, and enough supplies to make contact with civilizations in 3 different star systems. Outstanding. Send them off with our blessing. Through the observation deck's viewport, they watched 12 ships, each one a blend of human and Veltar design, accelerate toward the edge of the system. Each ship carried crews from both species, along with something more valuable than any technology, the knowledge that different peoples could work together to accomplish the impossible. Admiral, Sci-fi said as the ships disappeared into hyperspace, what do you think they will find out there? I don't know, Sarah admitted, but I know what they'll bring with them. Hope. The idea that no one has to face the darkness alone. And if they encounter civilizations in trouble, Sarah's smile was answer enough. Then they'll learn what humans and Veltar learned 6 months ago. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin with 3 simple words. We're here to help. As the joint exploration fleet disappeared into the unknown, the new Harmony station continued its work, a beacon of cooperation in a galaxy that was just beginning to understand the power of unity. And somewhere among the stars, new civilizations would soon discover that the universe was a little less lonely than they had thought. Because when different peoples choose to help instead of harm, to build instead of destroy, to reach out instead of turning away, anything becomes possible, even peace among the stars. The end.